From the Placerville Historic Preservation League, Mr. Kirk Smith. Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. Our group from Placerville shares all the concerns you've heard today, this morning, about the problems of our courthouse. They're serious. They've been long neglected. They need to be addressed. Our concern, however, and is the case for the people of the community, is to save our present courthouse. You can do it. You can address all these problems at much less cost if you construct an annex at the existing property. So on your right is the existing courthouse. The property on the other side is owned by the city. The square footage on the surface is equal to what the courthouse now has. Our architectural plans so that if you build up in the back, you'd come up with 140,000 square feet. The proposed courthouse is about 88,000 square feet. And I think the cost at one time was like $90 million. Well, putting it here downtown, apart from avoiding massive economic destruction to the historic character and economy of town, is going to save you money because you're not going to have the massive excavation and the infrastructure of building roads, driveways, and putting in water pipes. Now, you've already been told about $300,000 to repair a 100-year-old elevator that's no longer being manufactured. But from construction experience, you probably know that for that same amount of money, you can get 3 elevators brand new installed, which would address your ADA and your prisoner access issues. So you wouldn't see any more photographs of prisoners being paraded around. And it's true, the water's contaminated, but it has absolutely nothing to do with that building. That building was renovated by 1970 when the public was outraged at the prospect of tearing it down and building one on the property owned by Senator John Briggs at the other end of town. The talk was tear it down because it's not earthquake proof. There was plenty of publicity, articles, every issue of the local paper rallying around saving that courthouse, and they did. The pipes are copper. The contamination comes from the pipe, the iron pipe that goes to it that's about 100 years old. Most people in town know they replaced them last year. They were just falling apart. That's the reason you got the contamination. It has absolutely nothing to do with the copper pipes inside. Courthouse security. We should all be concerned about these days. In fact, you should be concerned about going to a political rally for presidential candidates too. When you're on that side of the hill on Bedford Avenue, I'd point out at your new location, you've got a lot of hills and knolls that provide you unobstructed sight of the new courthouse. And I can next time show you photographs of where a sniper could be in a secluded place and get on the freeway in about 120 seconds, because there's a parkway right there in the on-ramp. So you're gonna have that problem wherever you are. My law offices were right by the Supreme Court on 9/11. I could see the smoke from the Pentagon on the roof. And I can tell you that next door, Independence Avenue has just as much traffic going by every day as Highway 50, and it's closer to the Supreme Court building than Highway 50 is to our courthouse. But if you got a new construction behind the old courthouse, you can have bulletproof gas, which, by the way, they did not install at the Supreme Court building. And by the way, they've got a train that runs under, look at the map. You could drop an incendiary device on top of a cargo train going under the Supreme Court at 1st and C Street. But you would have that problem addressed. And for anybody having problems going to their car, the parking lot would be enclosed. Most of you here today were in enclosed parking lots, like this would be, because it'd be enclosed. And we have virtually no crime problem there as compared to San Francisco. So that would be enclosed. And you'd still keep all the parking you have now. These plans that we have and tried to present, we've had difficulty because the City Council and the Board of Supervisors have absolutely no interest. They've been stuck on this plan for about 40 years. At first, there was plenty of exposure, plenty of public hearings, but in recent years, it wasn't. So what I'm going to ask is that you consider doing this. Why? Because you're now in a budget crunch. You're tight on money. Why would anybody want to go to the state legislature and talk about a program that has less square footage and more money? Well, if you do with this plan, Senator John Briggs, former Senator John Briggs, his property will not be utilized. He's already got 30 adjoining acres that's being advertised for development. And we have a lot of contractors, a couple, who've got millions of dollars in no-bid contracts. They won't get any money if you build it here because they won't have any excavation contracts. You'll have less money. So I only heard about this last night from a reporter. And I'd like to present to you, I'll ask the staff about coming on and present historians and architects and show you the plans about how that can be done. It's been done all over the country, and it's been done throughout this county. You heard somebody describe one in 1854 at the other end of town, other end of the state. It's still being used. I practiced before the District Company Court of Appeals. That was constructed before the start of the Civil War, 1862. It's still used. We have Colusa, a beautiful courthouse, just as old as ours. It's still being used. You can save this courthouse. Why would you want to do it? Because it's not just part of our heritage, it's part of our economy. People come from all over the world because of what's old, not new. And I'd invite you all come up here next month because we're going to have the World Gold Pan Championship contest. We'll have people literally from all over the world. We get visitors every day who are from all over. When Walmart came in at the other end of town, just over the city line, businesses suffered tremendously. All high-end stores closed down. They were replaced by antique stores, secondhand stores, and art galleries. Why? Because 6 to 12 vendors at one building can collectively afford to pay their rent. When the same thing happened to major changes on Sutter Street in Folsom, all the old vendors did not come back for the most part, and they increased the liquor licenses, the number of liquor licenses in the areas. That's what's going to happen to Placerville, and that's why it's important to look at that second option. We've been unsuccessful because we've offered plans to the City Council and Board of Supervisors, and they haven't been interested. And when they were trying to push this project on March 25th of last year, one of the politicians, because most of the people in the site selection committee were politicians, one of them said that you need to approve this project because if you don't, our courts will lose $90 million and it'll go to the very bottom. That's what Jack Sweeney said. A number of the folks said that if you don't approve this, why the State Judicial Council has been trying to move it out of the city limits to Rancho Cordova. No joke, they actually said that. If anybody tried to pull that stuff in your courtrooms, can you imagine the grounds for impeaching that witness would be like? But that's the way this project was sold. They did not consider the other options. They considered going with a bridge property. So I hope you'll give consideration to that option because it's certainly an easier one to sell, especially in election year if you're going to go up next month to Sacramento. I'll be able to answer quickly some questions if there's some time remaining.
We thank you very, very much, and you indicated a preference to supply some written documentation, and if you can supply that to Chris Magnuson, and we'll make sure that you get his email, he can distribute it to all of us, and we thank you not only for making the trip, for your comments, and we're always open to any and all information and ideas that people have, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.